Government secrets, even some information on you hidden away.
Carried around by trucks like these you might have seen on local roads or highways, but do you know where they're going? Como4's Mary Nam traveled across the country to find the answers.
When it comes to protecting national secrets, the government goes deep underground, a virtually indestructible mine filled with files, patents, and secrets. It's the place Bill Gates chose to protect some priceless artifacts. And I got to see what few eyes have seen inside Iron Mountain. Drive an hour north of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. It's rural, rolling pastures, lazy cows, not much to see. Or so you think. There's security cameras all out here.
Yes.
Iron Mountain is one of the most protected places on Earth. The Yellow Gates guard an abandoned mine, 3 miles long and 2 miles wide, 220 feet underground, with vault after vault of historic treasures and government secrets.
What we have in here, these rooms are between 25 and 30,000 square feet each, about 600 feet long. This is where we store boxed premium hard copy at this underground facility.
Just paper, the good old-fashioned paper document.
That is correct.
It's what's on those papers that makes them incredibly important. This is where the government keeps patents of countless inventions. The Social Security Administration is here. If you're a retired federal employee, your file is down here too. There's an endless maze of dark corridors that stretch into blackness. Vaults don't hold fancy jewelry or rare paintings. Vice President Chuck Dowdy tells me it needs to be worth a whole lot more. So we are looking at the future home of...
This will be the future home of Smithsonian Institute, one of their records facilities.
Iron Mountain guards real records, too. More than 700,000 original master tapes of some of the most famous and hard-to-find audio recordings.
We have Frank Sinatra's original single, Night and Day.
Night and day.
These are the recordings used to make the CDs we buy at the store. From Michael Jackson's studio masters to Seattle's own Dave Matthews Band, even the king himself.
Here's an older Elvis with some tunes on it.
There are dark secrets in the mountain, too. The charred evidence from United Flight 93 brought down by terrorists on 9/11 is heavily guarded in one of the underground vaults. It's no secret who their biggest client is.
The biggest client by number of employees would be sections of the federal government.
There are branches of the government I've never seen before, like the U.S. Investigation Services. But Dowdy is very tight-lipped about who does what and what's stored within these walls. Do you ask them, what do you want us to hold for you?
We do. And actually, our customers are very forthright in telling us whether they want us to publicize their names or they don't want anybody to know their names.
95% of their customers demand complete secrecy, and guarding the information is Iron Mountain's greatest strength. Iron Mountain is like an underground city. They have their own water, their own sewage, their own fire department, and their own security team. And management tells me they have never, ever had a security breach. That flawless record is why the world's richest man keeps some of the world's greatest treasures here. Bill Gates' company Corbis owns the rights to millions of historic images, one-of-a-kind originals. Corbis preserves them in Iron Mountain. These pictures are more valuable than diamonds, and they're treated that way.
Go into the vault.
The images are stored in a specially designed moisture-proof vault, the size of a football field. So here we are inside the vault, and it's cold.
It is.
It's cold in here.
It's 45 degrees in here, 35% humidity. And what we have stored in here are over 20 million images.
To keep track, manager Ann Hartman divided the images into subject files, from personalities to celebrities to events. All are glimpses into our history.
Here he is. Let's see.
From old Hollywood's Alfred Hitchcock to a rare photo of an infamous tyrant.
This is Hitler as a baby. This is an undated photograph.
Some images are more than 100 years old before film was even invented. The glass negatives are carefully wrapped in foil and stored in wooden crates. We found snapshots of Seattle's history, too. Here's Pine Street before the condo boom. And of course, our famous Space Needle. The true treasures, what Anne calls the prizes, are frozen forever.
So they're in boxes, specially packaged, so they're sealed. And in it, we would have images such as Marilyn Monroe with her skirt blowing up and Einstein with his tongue sticking out.
What price tag would you put on history? Whether it's a picture or a patent, it's all here in Iron Mountain, where secret treasures are truly buried beneath the Pennsylvania pasture.
I think that the best anyone's been able to do is that it's priceless. And certainly I probably couldn't do any better.
So you might be wondering why Pennsylvania? Well, Iron Mountain is in Pennsylvania because of stability, 0 earthquakes. The facility has to be fail-safe because Iron Mountain is also a relocation center for many major companies in case of an emergency.
Well, it's reassuring to know it's all safe down there,
Yes.
I guess. Oh, so Bill Gates has a vault. Can anybody buy a vault if they want
You know,
one?
I asked that if money can buy a vault, but the fact is Elizabeth Taylor herself wouldn't be able to get a vault for her jewelry collection if she wanted. The value of all of her diamonds don't even come close to the value of the information that's stored in Iron Mountain, because if it isn't vital, it just doesn't get a vault.
Well, if you could have access, you could spend the rest of your life
You
down
sure
there
could.
going through
And I know
that
they didn't
stuff.
show me everything.
Yeah, fascinating.
Why did you build up this facility back in 1951 in this particular location?
Well, back in 1951, we had the advent of the nuclear bomb. And both private sector and the federal government determined that putting records underground was a safe and secure way of protecting them. In addition, we have some unique geologic features to this mine that makes it unique for that characteristic. And finally, the fact that it's in an extremely remote location lent itself for that. Let me go in and show you some of the unique features of the facility.
Okay, let's go. So what are the specific features of this facility, Chuck?
Some of the unique features are the fact that we are located in a 0-rated seismic area. The fact that there is a shale layer overlaying the limestone, which makes this mine very dry. And finally, the fact that this limestone has a structural strength. One of the first customers that we had was the federal government. Yes, it is. But there still are some one-of-a-kind collections, some extremely important documents that we have for private sector that require extremely high levels of security too. In the United States, the Pentagon and the White House is a level 5. We are a level 4 facility. We have classified areas here.
Most of us tend to put our jewelry and our valuables and our important papers in a safe deposit locker in a bank. Data centers like these will be the banks of the future, because the currency of the future is going to be the information that we have and we manage for our business. That's where the power will be.
Chosen to conduct a special study. One of the members sought to have it published in order to warn people. The publisher says it explains the incomprehensible policies of our nation. Iron Mountain is an underground facility where corporations keep their critical documents. These 15 participants met monthly over a 2-year period, traveling in secrecy, and were paid but told not to report their income on their taxes. The special study was based off of what problems the United States would face if there was a possibility of permanent peace. They were asked what the government should do in the face of that contingency. So it was obviously undesirable to have permanent peace because it threatened the elite's position. And some of the answers that they came up with were pretty strange. They said that poverty was necessary and desirable, again, to keep that hierarchy intact. A return to slavery as an institution may be desirable. They needed to budget the amount of annual deaths. In short, a world without war, the masses would become wealthy, have more leisure, and become more educated to see that the elite were useless parasites. and the elite structure would be threatened. Just like a bully, they must keep their boot on our face in order to ensure their way of life. The primary aim of modern warfare is to use up the products of the machine without raising the standards of living. The essential act of war is destruction, not necessarily of human lives, but the products of human labor. War was a way of shattering into pieces, pouring into the stratosphere, or sinking into the depths of the seas, materials which might otherwise have been used to make the masses too comfortable and hence, in the long run, too intelligent. George Orwell. The arbitrary nature of war expenditures makes them ideally suited to control the essential class relationships. The continuance of the war system must be assured, if for no other reason, among others, than to preserve whatever quality and degree of poverty a society requires as incentive, as well as maintain the stability and internal organization of power. It's a quote from the report from Iron Mountain. Massive government waste is not the unfortunate byproduct. It is the goal. War is peace. At least it is for the elite. The report goes on to say that modern warfare has the promise of improvement, since millions can be killed indiscriminately.
That for the first time in human history, for the first time in all of human history, almost all of mankind is politically awake. And these new and old major powers face still yet another novel reality, in some respects unprecedented. And it is that while the lethality of their power is greater than ever, their capacity to impose control over the politically awakened masses of the world is at a historical low. I once put it rather pungently, and I was flattered that the British Foreign Secretary repeated this, as follows. Namely, in earlier times, it was easier to control 1 million people, literally. It was easier to control 1 million people than physically to kill 1 million people. Today, it is infinitely easier to kill 1 million people than to control 1 million people. It is easier to kill than to control.
So that's the big new Brzezinski recently. You'd think a man such as his age would, eventually just go off and, go out to pasture, but you can tell his mind is still thinking for the elite. And in that speech, he literally says that it's easier to kill 1 million people than it is to control 1 million people. And it comes across as a threat that, if we're not kept in check, the elite would just kill 1 million people. So here's the quote. In the past, it was easier to control 1 million people than it was to kill 1 million people. Now, it is far easier to kill 1 million people than it is to control 1 million people. And that's Zbigniew Brzezinski, one of the top echelons of the elite control system. The elite see war as a prime function of maintaining control over the other classes. There is another purpose, which is population control. The more useless eaters there are around, the more they have to worry about. Social stability is brought about by killing a bunch of people, feeding the war machine with profits, conquering other nations' wealth, confiscating their citizens' wealth through inflation, displacing, enslaving, and torturing all that survive. George Washington warned us against entangling foreign alliances for the very purpose of creating a peaceful world. If the elite could waste enough resources, they could spur demand, which would result in money in their pocket, and never raise the standard of living of the people, which would maintain control over the people. So it's a dual functioning program, this military-industrial complex. One, to create profits, create jobs, and create wealth for them, but also wasting the resources of the production into war, thereby blowing it up, and then not raising the standard of living for everybody. That's why we're always on this treadmill, because The rich get richer through this machine, and we never see the results, the fruit of our labor, because they're constantly destroyed and inflated away. When you see that government waste is not the result of an incompetent government, but the goal of an effective elite control system, things become a lot easier to understand. The war on poverty wasted $5 trillion with absolutely no difference in the quality of life for the poor. This is the beginning of the war on poverty, back in the 40s, it looks like. This played into the Hegelian dialectic, where there was a war spending and people spending paradigm. So the Republicans pushed forward their war and defense initiatives, and the Democrats pushed forward people spending, which resulted in welfare and Head Start and all these social programs. So this false choice of either spending more money on war or spending more money on these people, and again, this war on poverty resulted in nothing but just more wasteful spending, played well into this Hegelian dialectic. Both are evil and wasteful and have nothing to do with what has made this country great. There was a ton of programs with very little results. Medicare, Medicaid, all these college grants, subsidized housing, welfare, etc. It seems wasteful, but it serves the elite's purpose of wasting resources so that the common man never gets out of the rat race to see what is being done to them. Another program of waste, if war is not possible in the short term, is wasteful big projects that you hear, like this colonization of Mars. Like, we spend all these billions of dollars throwing all these incredible electronics out in the outer space. And while it's great for scientific research, they're designed just to waste money. We don't see, vast improvements in our quality of life because of that. What did we get out of it? We got Tang and Velcro and, stuff like that, but we certainly haven't seen self-powered houses or flying cars that we've been promised essentially forever. Climate change and pollution could also fill the void by regulating every aspect of life and make the answer very costly. Direct management of the population could be put into the food and water supply. And unlimited secret funding of government programs. This is just ways of wasting more and more money.
One of the most dangerous threats to our nation's security is the possibility of attack by high-speed enemy bombers armed with nuclear weapons. We cannot afford to take that chance.
The fact that atom bombs may someday be dropped on our cities